Hey, it's Greg Milby, community storyteller for Kentucky's Heartland, and I am joined by Dr. Daryl Pepper, associate pastor at Grace Heartland Church. He is representing Room in the Inn, E-Town today. First of all, I love the fact that I get to say, hello, Dr. Pepper.
Well, thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me on the show. And really, I'm a doctor, but not the kind that can help anybody, meaning the medical kind. I'm the PhD kind. That's what my kids would tell me. And really, all I did is just live up to my nickname. I was already called that anyway. So why did I bother getting the degree? I'm not sure. But
I think that's a good life goal. If my last name was Pepper, I would want to be a Dr. Pepper. Wouldn't you want to be a
one of
Pepper
my
too?
professors said, if you can stay bored enough long enough, you can get a degree. That's all it takes, Greg.
Well, we live in a world now that is, you definitely can't sit around and be bored because there is a lot of stuff going on. And one of the things that every year, the last few years that churches in our area have been a part of is Room in the Inn. And I wanted to give you a chance, first of all, to talk about what is Room in the Inn and how long has this been going on?
Right. So Room in the Inn got started several years ago when just a couple of ladies had a vision for this ministry that they had seen running in Nashville, Tennessee. That's where it started. It's in Bowling Green. It's in other communities, but they had a desire to bring it here. So Room in the Inn is basically churches coming together and offering shelter for homeless people every single night of the week. So we needed a church to host every single night. And then we worked with Warm Blessing Soup Kitchen. That's where people would be fed. But the thing with Room in the Inn is it's a temporary shelter that only runs during the coldest months of the year. So for us, that's December, January, and through the end of February. So we're not a permanent all the time running shelter, but it is for that coldest season. And that's what we did. So this would be our 6th year to run it.
Yeah, it's a lot of years. And I know you guys, it's one of those things that it continues to evolve and change as the years go on. And I'm guessing this year is definitely a different year, 2020 for you guys. So what's different about this year with Room in the Inn?
Yeah, so in my role at Grace Heartland Church, part of my role is to be out in the community and to be active. And so I sit on the board for Room in the Inn. I'm chair of the board for that group. And this last summer, we were looking at all the effects of COVID and we were trying to plan and prepare for this coming year. And we began to realize we just don't think that our churches are going to be comfortable hosting this on their campus with their people, with everything going on. So we began to pray. First of all, that's always a good place to start. And then we began to just ask questions and brainstorm. And thankfully, we began to start, or rather kind of continue a conversation with the city of Elizabethtown. So kudos to Mayor Jeff Gregory. He ran on a campaign platform that he was going to be involved in helping the homeless. And so he and his office began to work with us and begin to think about things. Also, Councilman Marty Fulkerson was very instrumental in helping us begin to think about how could the city help. So this year, instead of being every single night in a particular church, what we've rolled towards is the city has leased us the Elizabethtown City Firehouse number 2. So there's a brand new one that's been built for those guys, and that facility was going to sit vacant. Thankfully, it also sits 2 doors down from Warm Blessings, the soup kitchen, where our guys get fed and where we already do our registration. So then we just decided to call it Room in the Inn Firehouse, and that's what it's going to be at least for this season. So really thrilled to be working with the city of Elizabethtown on this.
I think it's great. And, being right down 2 doors down, I know transportation, getting the guys and the ladies to Room in the Inn each and every night was a challenge, but that kind of helps alleviate that a little bit, just being 2 doors down and with COVID. So how are you guys handling the COVID issues? Because I'm sure there is just a laundry list of things that you have to work on, like sanitizing and mask and that kind of stuff.
There are lots of things that we have to do. And that was one of the first things we began to work through as a board. We just literally put a whole team of people together and said, all right, help us think through what are the practical things that we're going to need to do to keep everybody safe, because we have guests that we want to keep safe. And we also have people who are working in our churches, our volunteers, that we need to keep safe. So how are we going to do this? And if you go to our website, and I know you'll flash that later, but it's roomintheinneatown.com.
We'll do that right. We'll do that right now for you.
All right. if people go to our website, it will say guest expectations, and we'll have expectations there. We'll have host expectations, and that means those of us who are volunteering to help out. Well, what are the expectations? And then it has our COVID policy is built into both of those things. But basically, when people come to register at Warm Blessings, their temperature is going to be taken. They're going to be asked a series of health questions. They're going to have to sanitize their hands. They're going to have to wear a mask. Then once they get to Room in the Inn Firehouse, they're going to have to wear a mask the entire time, except when they're eating, drinking, on their beds. We're just going to use a whole layers of practical things. When guests leave in the morning to go to their job, if they go to a day shelter, wherever they're going for the day, then after that, we're going to sanitize everything. We're going to be spraying down all the cots, all the beds, all the tables, everything. Just like most businesses are having to do at the end of every single day, we're going to follow those same really good practices. And really appreciate also Kerr Office Solutions has donated all kinds of paper towels, toilet paper, soap, sanitizer bottles, all sorts of things there. So, Greg, the upside is that more and more this year we have seen more businesses get involved. The city of E-Town get involved. Our churches are still involved. Warm Blessings, their board has been amazing. Dawn Cash is the director down there. But she has to run everything through her board, and their board's been amazing to work with. So it's really become probably more of a community effort this year.
Wow. And that's great. And so that's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things to work on. So talk about more of who is involved, because you mentioned Dawn and Warm Blessings and the city, but there are other community partners and businesses besides what you've just mentioned. I want to give you a chance to give them kudos and for people to understand it takes a lot of people to make this kind of stuff happen.
Oh, wow, Greg. Yeah, there's a lot of people to think about and to list. We have a board who works on it, and typically you think about a board of directors as the guys who just sit around and make the decisions. But I mean to tell you, our board has been down there cleaning that firehouse and setting up cots and scrubbing and getting everything in shape to make it work, to make it feel more like a home and to make it safe and clean. Warm Blessings is a key partner for us. We do our registration there. Then Warm Blessings also runs a day shelter during the day. Also, Dawn Cash and her team, we worked with her to do a joint grant. So we're going to have a social worker that's going to be with us on a part-time basis for the next 6 months. And a large part of his or her job is going to be helping us to work directly in a one-on-one situation with the people who are staying with us, with our guests. But back to our community partners, we had host churches for every single night. Previously, that means that like we're with Grace Heartland, so every Saturday night we were the warming shelter. We set up the cots, we hosted the guests in our facility, in our gym. We fed them breakfast. We did the transportation to and from, the whole thing. Now we are still the Saturday night host, but it's just that we host people down at Room in the Inn Firehouse, and breakfast is served down there. So on our website, we have more than a dozen churches who are involved in some way, shape, or form, and more churches are getting involved as they kind of hear about our needs this year. I'm sure I'm leaving out somebody that I should be thinking of, whether it's a business or a community partner.
But put you on the spot, so that's a little bit of a partnership. Yeah. All right. So for individuals, that want to help out, that want to make a difference, how can people help with Room in the Inn Firehouse?
Oh, that's a great question. So there's a couple of ways to help. One of the easiest ways is to navigate over to our website. And on there, you have a volunteer. Well, one of the easiest ways is to donate. So go to roomintheinn.etown.com, go to the donate tab, and you can make an online donation pretty quickly that way. Or we also have a Facebook page, and that is Room in the Inn Hardin County on Facebook. If you navigate over there, we usually have an Amazon list posted. You may have to scroll just a little bit, but typically there's an Amazon list posted there. And Greg, I should say that I don't know who all of our community partners are, because we posted a very deep Amazon wish list a couple of weeks ago, and stuff just started flying off the shelves. Well, off the Amazon shelf. And we've just been amazed by the amount of donations we've gotten from our community. Probably the biggest way that's the most involved is to actually host. And again, if you go to our website, there's a button there called volunteer. And under that volunteer button, it goes to an email address, which will be answered quickly. The lady we have in charge of that does a great job. But if you want to host, what that means is you're willing to stay overnight, and you can let us know. Even if you go to, I'm going to say, St. James Church is our Wednesday night host. So let's say you go to St. James, but you can't make Wednesday nights work. You can go to the website, you can go to volunteer, and you can let us know your name and that you're available to host on Saturday nights, or you're available to help out on Sunday or Monday. So one is staying overnight, and that is just what it sounds like. You get to room the inn in the evening, and then you spend the night there. Everybody would have already been fed, so there's no food that night. But you spend the night on a cot, and you can bring your own bedding if you want to, or you can use what we provide. And then you wake up the next morning, and we can talk in a minute about what it means to be a self-sustaining shelter, because the guests actually have to help do all the work. But that's hosting overnight, and then we need breakfast several mornings a week to be provided and to be brought in. And so that's another way. But go to the website and let us know that you want to help out, and we'll make sure we will communicate with you about how's that going to work best for you.
Yeah, and talk about that quickly, where the folks that come there that are part of Room in the Inn and they're staying there, there's a buy-in with them too, as far as taking care of some things around there. So talk about that a little bit too as we wrap this up.
Sure. What we've said is that we want to be two things in the shelter. One, the shelter is really for people who live in Hardin County, who are from Hardin County, and they've fallen on hard times, and for whatever reason, they have found themselves homeless. And that can include living out of a car, but we've got to take care of our own people first, is what all of our groups have said. Basically, we're not trying to become a shelter for people to transfer from Bowling Green or Owensboro or out of Louisville. They have their own facilities. So one, we're trying to keep that dialed in and local. And then the second thing is every guest will come in every evening. They will be given their bedding. They'll have to make their own bed. In the morning, they'll have to put all of that in their pillowcase. They'll have to bring it to our laundry facility. They have to help take out the trash. They have to help sweep, sanitize, everything that it takes to run the shelter. They've got to be involved with helping that. So if you stay, you've got to be able to help out. And within the homeless community, they tend to help each other. So if somebody has a hard time making their bed, if somebody has a hard time putting their sheets away, if somebody has a hard time doing their chore or their job, usually the other guys are chipping in and helping them out. And so that's good to see. And that's just part of staying at the shelter.
All right. Good stuff. Again, the website is roomintheinn.com.
One more.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm throwing you here. Got one more. You talked about precautions in the COVID realm. And part of what we realized with our churches is a lot of people who volunteer to host had been in the upper age category. And we began to realize, man, they're especially not going to feel comfortable doing this anymore. But for those of us who aren't in the at-risk categories because of health or age or other things, particularly those of us who are part of the church, we began to say, while COVID is complicated and confusing, and it's an inconvenience for all of us, what would it be like to have the threat of living in this COVID era and be homeless? I mean, talk about an awful situation to be in. So he said, especially those of us of faith who feel secure in where we're going, if the worst case scenario happens and we pass away, let's be found faithful, and let's be found serving other people in hard times. The church has always, since the history of the church, been found to help the orphan, the homeless, the widow, the foreigner, the person traveling through your community. And so why should we do any less in this era? So some people need to really watch, but there's a lot of us who can help out.
There you go. Room in the Inn, etown.com. You can make a difference. You can go to their Facebook page as well, which is Room in the Inn, Hardin County. He is Dr. Daryl Pepper from Grace Heartland Church, also representing the board with Room in the Inn. Appreciate the time today, and let us know if we can help in any other way.
Absolutely. Thanks for hanging out, Greg.
All right, I'm Greg Milby, community storyteller, and this is Kentucky's Heartland.